Hello everyone, back to you in today's video. Going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days. In today's video, it's going to take us into the first week of September. I'll have a look at CFSV2 as well for the next month, but we'll begin just by having a look at now tropical storm Harvey. So this has deposited around 3 feet of rain over parts of southeastern Texas, parts of Houston, for example. In Texas, it's still absolutely hammering down with rain as we speak, and it's going to continue for another day or so, and then conditions in Texas, southeast Texas, should ease as the storm starts to push northward. So this is Harvey just here. Now, when we looked at this on Friday, this was roughly the position of the then Category 4 Hurricane Harvey. So this is now, as I say, it's not a hurricane, but it is still a storm, a tropical storm. And it's barely moved, actually. It's still in roughly the same position it was when we looked at it on Friday as Hurricane Harvey. So throughout the weekend and into yesterday, this has just been depositing huge amounts of rain down on the southeastern part of Texas. You'll see that we've got another feature up here running up the eastern seaboard. That's got a 40 to 60% chance of becoming something a little bit tropical in the next day or two. And then we've got this area over here. It's just a disturbance at the moment off the coast of Africa. But that might be our next storm and maybe even hurricane in a few days' time. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But of course, at the moment, all we're concerned is what's happening with Storm Harvey. So this is where it is right now, and we see it's just there off the Texas coast of the Gulf of Mexico. We can see its track over the next 2 or 3 days is to push northwards through the state. So by around Thursday, things should start to dry up a bit for Texas, and then the storm pushes north into Tennessee and then into Kentucky by the time you get through to the weekend, and then it's going further northwards, and that probably in towards Ohio and West Virginia, where it should just be a depression, an area of low pressure. So another couple of days, and then the worst should begin to ease in that southeastern part of the state. This is the ensemble for Houston in Texas. It's the same as the ensemble that we look at for the UK in terms of upper air temperatures and precipitation, but I just want to show you what the rainfall spikes look like with a tropical storm, and that's what they look like. They go virtually, or they do go off the scale there in terms of those rainfall spikes. So a huge amount of rain obviously falling down across the southeast part of America at the moment. We can see that by the end of the week, sort of 1st of September, things are beginning to dry up quite a lot. But there is going to be another couple of days of very heavy and torrential and severe weather in that southeastern part of America, for Texas. So we'll need further monitoring, of course. Right, coming back closer to home, it's central England temperature. Provisional up to yesterday, 28th of the month, and we can see that provisionally we are still standing at, or we are standing now at 16.0, which has just gone ever so slightly above average, 0.2 degrees above average. So despite all of the cool weather that we've been having in the past few weeks, it did look nailed on about 10 days ago, but we would have a cooler than average August. Despite that, I've actually gone ever so slightly above average. But remember, it is set against 61 to 1990. If we was to compare to a more modern average, like 81 to 2010, we would probably still be cooler than average. But we certainly have seen quite a significant recovery in the temperature over the past week or so, particularly culminating in that hot day that we had yesterday, one of the hottest bank holiday Mondays on record, if not the hottest. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. This is for London, so same as what we just looked at for Houston, but this is for London. We've got the upper air temperatures here. The red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average, still above average in the southeast at the moment, but the trend is downwards. We're going to go cooler than average over the coming few days, and then staying cooler than average really up until around the 3rd or the 4th of September, after which we probably start to see a bit of a recovery temperature over the weekend and into the start of next week. But no sign of going back to the heat that we've had over the past couple of days. But it will be fairly warm, I would have thought, that weekend. In terms of rainfall, so we've got some wet weather coming up tomorrow, actually. Could be really quite wet down across parts of central, southern and southeastern England. And then after that, we're looking at showery conditions, really, through the remainder of the period, actually. So we go into the second week of September just here. It looks like we're keeping it generally quite showery then. It won't be continuously wet, don't be getting that idea, but it does look rather showery in nature over the next week or two. Temperature anomalies for the UK coming out ever so slightly warmer than average, as it is through most parts of Western Europe, actually. So a fairly mild week coming up. The precipitation anomaly shows that it's drier than average in the north, but a little bit wetter than average down in the south. For the temperature anomaly in America, east-west split continues, quite cool over in the east and southeastern part of the states. In the north and west, very significantly hotter than average up there. Precipitation anomaly showing many western parts of the states coming out drier than average. It's wetter in the east and particularly, of course, in the southeast. Just there is the rainfall again associated with Harvey. You see that starting to push northwards as the precipitation anomaly over the next week as well. So this is how the generic chart's looking then for Saturday. We've got a bit of a ridge of high pressure toppling in from off the Atlantic. It might still be a bit showery in the east. On Sunday, that ridge starts to weaken as low pressure begins to push in from off the Atlantic. It goes rather slack through to the middle part of next week. So it doesn't look like we're neither under high pressure or low pressure. You've got very, very slack sort of gradients going on there, so not a huge amount happening for the early part of next week. That could still be a little bit showery. The second half of next week brings a more defined area of low pressure in from off the Atlantic. So as we get through the second half of next week, it looks like it's turning more generally unsettled. Of course, that's a very long way off, running up to day 10, which is Friday 8th of September. It doesn't look like we're in a cool and unsettled pattern then. That's a very long way off. It's quite a change from the slack pattern that we have through the early part of the week to that much more unsettled pattern that we have in the second half of the week. Having a look at the ECMWF, so this is how things are looking for Saturday. We have this ridge toppling in over top of the country. Could be a bit showery in the east. Sunday brings another system in from off the Atlantic. And then go through to the early part of next week. We try and get a little bit of a ridge building here through the country and to the east. It looks a little bit thundery there on Wednesday the 6th. Got high pressure to the east, low pressures out to the west, bringing up quite a warm southerly flow. And that low pressure does look a little bit thundery. And then into the second half of next week, more generally unsettled again. This looks very unsettled actually through into the second half of next week, with a proper trough setting up within the 500 millibar flow. I think we're going to have quite a bit of warm weather through the early part of next week, and despite that ensemble, which looked quite showery, I suspect the early part of next week will tend to be pretty dry as well, but the second half of next week probably turns more generally unsettled. Fine, just having a look at the CFS V2 for the next month. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period taking us from the 29th of August to the 4th of September. We've got below average heights out to the west, and we've got above average heights to the south of Greenland and over to the east of us. So quite a messy pattern, but the upshot is that we're probably doing something a little bit like that with the flow and with the jet stream. We'll be unsettled at times, but not overly so. Go through to week 2, which is the 5th through to the 11th of September. We've got below average heights to our south and southeast, above average heights out to the northwest. That looks more generally unsettled. I think we're doing something like that with the flow and with the jet stream, probably bringing quite a cool sort of northeasterly wind in as well. It could be particularly unsettled, interestingly, down in the south, a little bit less so up for the north. Week 3 looks like this. It's the 12th to the 18th of September. Below average heights again to our east, above average heights out to the west, doing something a bit like that with the flow. And again, that's quite unsettled, although we're blocking off the Atlantic a bit, so Again, it's not an Atlantic onslaught, but particularly for the east and southeast of the country, but it's still quite unsettled. And then week 4, big changes from the 19th to 25th of September as we build this large area of above average height seen over top of the country. But could that be a little bit of an Indian summer developing there through to the latter stages of September? It certainly might be. So it looks like we've got a fairly changeable September coming up, but overall it doesn't look overly unsettled. It just looks like it's going to be quite showery at times, but of course that's all very expected. Coming back to the next week to 10 days, it looks like the rest of this week is going to be quite a bit cooler. There will be a little bit of rain tomorrow, otherwise fairly dry Thursday and Friday. Over the weekend and inside of next week, I think not too bad at all. It's going to be fairly warm. Will be some showery bursts around at times, but again, not overly unsettled or wet. And then possibly a more definitive change to unsettled conditions in the second half of next week. That is a very long way off. So I would say that in the sort of reliable time frame, there's going to be a fair amount of dry weather and it's going to be quite warm again as well for the start of September. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.